Fernando's managed to get the front door panel off, the speaker out. It's sitting right there. We'll take a look at that when we look at the mid bass for the door and how we're going to mount those. That means it's time for sound treatment. What is your plan of attack on this door?
Roll the window up, sound treatment the back of the door, concentrate in this part right here in the front of the door, and the door panel itself. So let's take a look at the door panel. We're gonna use the roll kill steel that has the foam, the goo, and the aluminum. So we're gonna concentrate in all this and all these little things that rattle. So yeah, we're gonna roll kill the whole thing. And of course Dean has to make the bracket to put the mid-range in this area. Let's do it.
For the doors, we're going to be using the Brax ML6D, made in Germany by Audiotech Fischer. They come in a wood box. This is full on wood, handcrafted high-end woofers. Flip up the little, inside the box, this is serial number 387. They are personally signed here by both Heinz and Julian, the owners of the company. Inside, you have your certificate, then you have the basic overview of the speakers themselves. You have your technical data sheet here, recommended enclosure volume, and then all of your measurements for building out any type of mount that you're gonna need. They come in a ton of foam. Comes with a screwdriver, Torx, bag of screws with a drill bit. Inside is the speakers. Now they have this dusty look to them, which is unique to this. I don't want to touch all over it. A rubber surround, treated cone, treated dust cap, good size magnet on the back, vented pole piece with grill, rubber around the magnet itself, oversized voice coil. The terminals here, you unscrew them, put your ferruled wire inside. The screw heads have a negative slash here and a positive slash here, and you can also fit a flathead in a bolt to make sure you get them, tight on the wire. An aluminum basket. Inside there's mesh covering all the openings, just like on the back. There is no grill in the box. If you do need one, there is one optional for you that is available. The screws that it comes with do have the pin inside, so this is the Torx with the pin in it. I'm really excited. I can't wait to actually hear these, but let's take a look and see what these are going to replace. This is the factory Brewmeister speaker for the front door. It has this grill over the front. This is something that Porsche loves to do. Inside it has an oversized driver. It's a metal basket. However, it is attached to this plastic. It's glued into place. The tinsel leads are soldered into this plug here. What I would like to do is unsolder the tinsel leads and remove this, make our new bracket to go right into this, because you can see it's substantially deep. I think that would be my best course of action. It has the silicone gasket on it. But what you'll notice is that there's no foam or anything like that, which you typically see on a speaker. The way the door panel is designed, this just gets up into it, and there's a cavity that's around it, which I'm guessing is to push this all through. Surprisingly, it didn't rattle that much, considering like when you touch the door panel, there's a lot of places that rattle on it. We'll take care of all that, of course, once Fernando gets to it. Now I'll see what I can come up with as far as the integration goes. With a little bit of heat, this actually popped right out. I was able to unsolder these two terminals and remove this driver from this mount. Then I sanded this flat, took a closer look at it, and I was like, you know what? I don't know if I want to use this. However, I do need this to make my template. So what I came up with is actually this. The driver sinks down into the mount. It's not screwed in yet. It sinks down in, so it's perfectly flush with it. When you take This, with its front grille and this, we made them the same depth. What this is constructed out of is a piece of 1/4" ABS on the back plate. This is gonna get screwed into the door. And then 4 layers of 1/2" blown PVC for the actual mount itself. 3 of them are structural that this will attach to, and then the one here is just the front piece to sink the driver in. And then we've added a round over to that. It's not screwed together yet because I still have to make the passenger side. And with that, let's head over to the router and I'll show you how I made this. What we want to do first is measure to see how big of a piece of plastic we need. This is 10 inches. I like to go a little bit over, so I'm going to go 11 by 11. Pre-cut one already. This is the ring out of the passenger side door. On this bracket, it has these screw downs for that top grill. When I set this on top of here, I'm gonna take my drill bit and go all the way through and then come up underneath with a screw. I don't want to screw down into this, it'll get caught up into the router. If I come up from the bottom, I use a pan head like this. It'll just ride across the top, kind of like roller balls. Don't over tighten it. Go from one side directly over the other side. Don't go 1, 2, 3, 4. Go 1, crisscross. With all the screws in place, now you can tighten them up. Set the proper height on the router. Make sure you always check that. In this case, we've been doing a lot of 1/4", a lot of 1/2", flip-flopping back between the two. And if I was to leave this at 1/2", it would totally destroy this guy here. We don't want to do that. Also, when working with ABS, face shield glass is something, this stuff sucks. Before I remove it, there's these extra holes here where the screws are actually going to screw into the car. Pre-drill those now. And this will be the back plate that goes up against the car. We're not cutting the circle out yet. That'll be the last thing we do, if you're wondering. Next is to cut the 1/2". We're gonna need 4 pieces of that same 11 by 11. I'm gonna flip this over so that what would be the top is now down, because I don't need all these extra pieces. Those are for screwing it down. I want this outside lip. Line it up on my piece. And I'm gonna do the exact same thing I did on the 1/4" piece. I'm gonna drill my holes through the top down. Face mask back on. All I need is the outside just like before, nothing on the inside yet. This is the first of the 4. So this is gonna be my master. What I've done, where the plug is, I wrote passenger, an arrow pointing the direction, and then part 1. That way I'll be able to keep track of all my pieces as I go through this. Once removed, I'm done with this. I don't need it for anything else. I can put the speaker back in here, solder the leads back into place, put the front grille on, give it back to the customer, and if he ever decides to put them back in, they'll plug right in. Mobile Solutions template tape onto template number 1. Stick it into place. Check the height, always check the height, and router it out. And lastly, pass 4. At this point, I need to screw this back together. And this is what we end up with. We need to find the center of this to the grill on the car, because the grill is not perfect, and we want to make sure that we get our speaker behind as much of the grill as possible so that all our air comes out. To do that, we're going to put this back in the car, and we're going to take a pin, find the center of the grill, come through that into this and mark the exact center. From there, we can work our way out. But what we found doing the driver's side is that even though this thing is, yeah, really thick, it's not thick enough for the needle that we have. For that, we needed 2 more pieces of 1/2 inch. And we'll stick them roughly here in the middle. Then add blue tape, rub it down nice flat, make sure there's no bubbles or anything like that. Let's head over to the car. Blue tape, flashlight, put it behind the grill. And this, it just so happens to have a really perfect circle right here. We have a needle, find my center, it's right here. Mark it with the pin. There's our pinhole. Poke it a few times, making sure, get that area. And what we end up with right here is the needle marks. We can get that back over to the bench, drill our pilot hole, and we'll use that to sync up for our bigger hole. I find my center point. I can now remove this and throw it away. I also want to remove layer 4 because now I need to draw a bunch of lines on here to find my center and get my circle lined up. I don't want all those lines to be on this, plus this is going to be a bigger hole. Now we already have these rings that we've gotten. Mobile Solution sells a pair that we use. If you don't have one of these, you could simply use a compass from that center point and get the radius, or do that onto one of your scrap pieces, get it cut out, and then apply it to this. Using a straight edge, draw 6 or so lines on this. With the straight line through the center, I can find my left and right. And this also has holes on it, so I know where a straight line between my template is. So if I can get the distance between here and the distance between here correct, then I know it will be correct from top to bottom. When you're happy, trace your circle. Now I just trace it because now I'm going to deconstruct this back out, router out my main circle into this, and as I go stack them accordingly. What that basically means is I'm going to tape this onto here, take it to the router one at a time, and as I get this done, I will work my way through all of them. That gets us all 4 routed out. Now we need to make this top insert piece. Just like the piece that we used for making this hole, we have the same piece for making the bigger hole that we need. And you can use the same basic process to do that if you're going to try to make it yourself, or use a compass. We could line this up by eye and just simply pray. However, the easier way to do it is drop the speaker into place and stick the ring around it. Now we know is exactly where it needs to be. Make sure that you put it on number 4. We're still at a 1/2 inch on this. Always clean off your templates when you're done. You don't want to leave that tape on there. Especially if you work with someone else. They might get mad if they come and find their thing all dirty. The last thing we need to do is add the hole to our bottom plate since we have these all done. Line this back up and screw it together. Readjust the height for the 1/4 inch. And that does it. Now we have a matching left and right, or drivers and passenger. The last step for this is actually adding some screws. Don't think that template tape is going to hold these together for like a permanent thing. That's not how it works. I'm going to screw from the back side and from the top side, sandwiching all the pieces together. Once I'm all done, I'll show you guys the finished product and we'll get it into the car, or I'll get it over to Fernando and let him get it in the car so I can move on to the next thing. You ready, Fernando?
I'm ready, man.
He's always ready. Fernando has just got done with his part of this. He screwed in using the Torx safety screws that it comes with, using that cool screwdriver, and wired it in. We drilled a hole through this closest plate here, came through, zip tied it all in, ferruled it in through the backside, insulated it red and black so it'll be easy to see. This is a heavy mount for sure. For final assembly, each layer is glued together, and then we added the 4 screws that we had been using. We just countersunk them, so this is perfectly flat. Then we also added 4 more countersunk screws to the back that go all the way through, and then for this top ring here, I grabbed the factory torque screws, used my grill to line up the holes, drilled in so that this front piece is also attached. So we basically have it scissored from both sides, compressed all together. It's really super rigid. Yeah, this is awesome. This is the finished speaker in the door. We've added a thin layer of foam as well as a connector if the speaker needs to be serviced. There's 6 factory screws to hold it in place.